Those of you with who are on Ericsson's may recognize this as one of the instrument pods that some of the Ericssons had or have on their helms. My Ericsson 32 Mark III, 1987 boat, has 3 of these. And this is the apparent wind speed indicator. There is another pod to the right and one to the left. The one to the right is, right now, has the control for the auto helm in it, the Raymarine auto helm. The one on the left is going to have a Raymarine depth gauge. And this one, because my mast was taken down and the old Data Marine masthead unit broke, and the fact that the boat is a 1987 and it's time to get rid of Data Marine since it's out of business, this one will have a new Raymarine apparent wind indicator to replace the one that's in there now. So, the problem was getting a square peg into a round hole. Okay, and it does work, and I wanted to keep the look of the pods, the retro look if you want to call it that, and not go to one large pod with all the gauges in it, because that would require a new binnacle guard, maybe a new binnacle. It was just too much involved. So since I already did this to the auto helm control, I decided to do the same thing to the apparent wind and the depth gauge, because all the Raymarine control units are square and the same size. So they all look identical as far as the outside dimensions go. So the first thing, of course, is to remove the old Data Marine from the pod. Of course, I took the pod off to make things a lot easier. First thing you do is remove the screws. And there's 3 of them. So here we are. This is a cast forging, probably aluminum. And this is the back of the Data Marine unit. And the Data Marine unit is held in with, at least the one I have, with 3 small set screws on a ring that sandwiches the unit to the mounting plate. And that you have to remove by taking out the little set screws, which are Allen screws. So I get my Allen wrench, and we'll take those out. Actually, all you need to do is loosen them, and this will slide off. Now mine was, you can still see it, was completely covered in silicone. So it took me about an hour and a half to get this thing out of here. A lot of prying and scraping, but it of course came out. And then you can remove the mounting plate. All right. Let's put this. Now, the one thing about Raymarine, which is really nice, is they do give you a gasket that goes between the instrument and the mounting surface. And this is the one. This is one of them here. And if you put it over the hole, the existing hole, turn it over, this hole is kind of, it's much larger for the Data Marine. So I decided to make a new ring out of plexiglass. And this is one of them. Okay. It's got the mounting holes for the Data Marine unit and the 3 mounting holes that go into the module, the pod. And if I put them together and you turn them around, You can see, I hope the camera picks that up. The hole is quite a lot smaller. Okay. So that's exactly what I did when I mounted the Raymarine gauge into the new mounting plate. They're screwed in, and it just makes it. You can see here, it just makes it, which is very fortunate. And I'm able to dodge around the mounting holes here, which is also very fortunate. And let's mount it in. So in the end, that's how it looks. Now there is a gasket that goes between the mounting plate and the pod, which I didn't put in because I'll be doing this again on the boat. But you can see I was managing to get a square thing into a round hole, and so to speak. And this will be I'll be doing the same thing with the Raymarine depth gauge, which I also have here. I'll be changing the frame on it, and this will go in the other pod. So the other improvement I'm making to the instrumentation, I'm getting rid of the old Garmin GPS and replacing it with this Raymarine Axiom 7 chart plotter. And it's pretty beefy compared to the Raymarine, compared to the Garmin. Pretty heavy. There's the panel. It's a touch screen. Of course, you can't see anything right now because it's not turned on. But the problem was how to mount this, where to mount this. It would not fit in the location where I now have the Garmin GPS chart plotter because it's just too wide. And I noticed that there's a trend for a lot of the chart plotters to be at least this wide now. And I wanted to go with Raymarine since I wanted to keep the architecture of all the system, the entire system, the same. So where to put it? To solve that problem, I built this. This is a basically a bracket. This is the bracket that comes with the Raymarine Axiom 7. And I made a base plate to match the bottom profile of the bracket. And to that base plate, I attached two 1-inch diameter aluminum rods, threaded at the bottom, 3/8 inch thread. And there's a bracket here that will, let's see if I can get you a better view on that. A bracket here that will tie into the binnacle guard. And I'll show you what it looks like with the chart plotter on top of it. Okay, I obviously have to hold this thing up so it doesn't fall over. But you can now see what the bracket looks like with the chart plotter in place. And the reason I had to put this tie rod in the bottom that goes to the binnacle guard is because this thing is really heavy. And I figured that in heavy seas, this might be rocking like this a lot and possibly break the connection at the bottom. So I decided to put that bolt connection to the binnacle guard in. And, well, we'll just have to see how it lines up on the boat. So here is the binnacle, top of the binnacle, and the center pod. And the only place to mount the bracket was on the platform that actually holds the center pod in the binnacle guard. So the first thing I did was lay out the holes for the bracket so that the bracket would clear the center pod itself. And here you can see the center pod and the holes marked in the platform behind it, and they certainly do clear with enough room. So using the information and back on the boat, after the bracket was manufactured, it was time to drill holes. Here I am putting a little oil in there, moving some things out of the way so they don't get tangled up with the drill. And that first hole, you didn't really see it because most of the times you were looking at the back of my head. So with the second pilot hole done, time to change drill bits to the final drill size. Time to vacuum everything up with my trusty Oric portable vacuum cleaner, one of my favorite tools. And a dry fit to see how things work out, if they worked. And to mark where the hole position should be on the top of the binnacle guard. Here I am marking the holes and applying the Drill Steady drill guide, a wonderful little jig that you use for drilling into pipes. To slip in the pilot hole drill, and again drilling slow and steady with lots of pressure. Then finishing up with the final hole for the 1/4 bolt. Did that on both sides, by the way. And now I'm screwing the 1/4 bolt through the top of the binnacle guard and into the bracket itself. And here's a close-up of that 1/4 bolt going through the binnacle guard and into the bracket itself. I also added a lock nut later on. And now after pulling the tape off, it's time to put it all together. Tighten things up and get the chart plotter in place. And there it is. Worked out quite well, I think, and just in the right spot. You can see the 1/4 that braces everything together. And a final view of the instruments in their pods. Of course, the top apparent wind one is missing, but that will come later, along with the depth gauge on the left side. Next time, wiring it all together using the C-Talk system by Ray Marine. It ought to be interesting. Thanks for watching.